You want beef, then have a call. Huh, it's like bling blow, ayy. Yeah, you can't hold me down. Yeah, how you like me now? You want beef, then have a call. Huh, it's like bling blow, ayy. Going up, going up, going up, going up, yeah. Going up, going up, going up, going up, yeah. Going up, going up, going up, going up, yeah. Going up, going up, going up, going up, yeah. Going up, going up, going up, going up, yeah.
Hello and welcome everybody to another edition of the Sun Solar Panel. Whether you're watching us on the Fox Sports Arizona Facebook page, the Sun Solar Panel YouTube page, or listening to us wherever you get podcasts, we are happy to have you with us. I'm Greg Esposito. Ahoy, hoy. Joined by the man with silver hair, but a heart of gold. It is, unless your name's Greg Esposito. It's Dave. How are you?
Oh, pretty good. As you can tell, I'm in a wonderful spot right now with a little white background. You guys have no idea where I could be anywhere in the world right now.
Dave,
you look like you're in San Quentin is what you look like.
Yep, Dave is using his one phone call to call in for the show. And then we've also got the man that says, hey, don't call me Saul. You can call me Book or Carmel Thunder. It's Saul Bookman.
I knew you were going to bring that up this already. Like I told myself we're not even going to get 5 minutes in before the whole book thing comes up. I just know it.
Look, I loved your tweet where you had to make it clear that you were Book before Devin Booker was.
No, what I was saying was I was putting the blame on myself for calling him Devin. That's what I was doing.
No,
I took it. I owned up to my mistakes, Espo.
Don't lie. You were saying I'm the one and only Book, and you can be Devin still.
I am the original.
But, of course, we were referring to Devin Booker saying earlier in the week he doesn't like being called Devin, so it's now law that we have to call him Book or Booker or D-Book. So just keep that in mind as we go into the season, everybody. You can call Saul whatever you want, but you have to call Booker D-Book or Book. So, another interesting week in Suns world, lots to talk about per usual, but we're going to take a stop over at the wonderful world of Disney. No, we're not talking another bubble situation in Orlando. We're talking about the ESPN 100 list. It finally came out. I know we were all waiting with bated breath to find out where they thought everybody on the Suns roster ranked. Well, news flash for you. The Suns now have 3 of the top 55 players in the NBA. That's right, 3. We didn't imagine that 2 years ago. We were just hoping Book wound up in the top 50 back in those days, but now there are 3 in the top 50, starting with DeAndre Ayton at number 52, Devin Booker at number 17, and Chris Paul at number 15. Guys, what was your read on this? Does it mean anything, or is it just total preseason banter? Dave, we can start with you.
Well, first of all, when was the last time the Suns acquired a top 20 player in the NBA in the offseason? I have to go back to I don't know if Steve Nash was actually ranked as a top 20 player when he was acquired. He certainly became two-time MVP, but nice. That is a nice angle, Espo, as people are commenting in the chat and we can see your face better. Hey, so I think it's pretty freaking awesome that the Suns actually go ahead.
I don't know. Why'd you stop, Dave?
Dave?
I don't know. I thought somebody was jumping in there. You guys say I talk too much, so I'm just going to stop randomly talking.
Oh, okay. Well, if you're done, I will go then.
Let's not make any real points here. Let's just stop mid-sentence. So what do you think about the real ESPN?
Well, you know what I really think is – oh, I'm sorry. Do you want me to continue? Okay, cool. Hey, so I thought that DeAndre Ayton being 52 was I could live with that, right? Until I saw my man Jaren Jackson at 43. Like what? No. Like there's no reality where Jaren Jackson is almost 10 spots higher than DA. There's just none. 0. And I I know there's a lot of Jaren Jackson like analytic lovers out there and blah blah blah. We've seen the guy play in person several times, and I have never been impressed with him. He's got a good game. He can shoot from the outside. He's a decent player. I just don't think he's better than DA. I think there's only two players right now that you could argue are better than DA from that draft, and that's Trae Young and the guy that you don't want to talk about from Dallas. Those are the only two things. Outside of that, there is nobody else.
Look, I think the suspension is part of it. He gets dinged because of that, and the fact that the Suns haven't really been in the national mindset his first 2 years in the league. So I understand why he is where he is, and he's got something to prove this season. And I'm sure by next year, with with playing next to Chris Paul, with the success that we expect this team to have, you'll see DeAndre Ayton higher in this list. I mean, really, this is
Lonzo Ball at 54. Like, get out of here. Really?
Yeah, but he's got a name. Look, this is just a media perception list. This isn't this isn't some big statistical analysis.
I could still be offended by it, Espo. Like, I think that's actually within my rights to be offended by this crappy list that they put out.
Regarding Ayton, though, I don't have a big problem with him being in the low 50 player rank. I mean, he did miss half season. He really does need to grow his set and all that. He's really got to get better as a player. I have a problem with Jaren Jackson Jr. being in the 40s. I have a problem with the guys around him in that list in the 50s being too highly ranked. I mean, Michael Porter Jr., are you freaking kidding me? How in the heck is he ranked anywhere near DeAndre Ayton? That is my biggest problem. I don't have a problem with him being 50-something.
I looking at it, though, I think this list probably rates offense a little bit more than defense, and where DeAndre made his big leap last year was on the defensive end of the floor. So, look, everybody, most people, probably this show excluded, underrates DeAndre Ayton in a lot of ways. It's no surprise to me that on a national stage that's happening as well on this list. But when you look at Devin Booker at 17, Chris Paul at 15, does that surprise you? Is there anything there that upsets either of you, or are you happy with where those guys ranked? Saul, let's start with you.
No, I think that's about right. You've basically said that Devin Booker is a borderline all-NBA team, first, second, or third team player by putting him at 17. He's right there on the cusp, right? And more importantly, he's a surefire all-star from this point forward, right? And I think that's what Suns fans want to see. They want the respect on Devin Booker's name that he deserves. He's proven that he's one of the best shooting guards in the league, one of the best players in the league. He's got respect league-wide, and finally, after the bubble, the national media is finally starting to pay attention to that and give him his just due. Now, for him, it's going to be taking it to another level. And I think he took it to another level last year. I'm excited to see if he can really expand on that this year for sure.
Dave? I think Dave might be frozen.
Dave's got the internet where the gerbil is like got a broken leg and he's kind of trying to spin the wheel, but it just ain't going too fast.
Dave, your thoughts?
I don't know what's going on this morning. Yeah, I don't know what the heck's going on this morning with my internet. It's the same internet I've always had. So I apologize for freezing up and stuff. I think Devin Booker is getting the recognition. I think him being in the teens is a great place to put him. I think Chris Paul being in the teens right with him is a pleasant surprise. Both were ranked lower a year ago by the preseason media hype. What's really going to matter is how the Suns play this year. It doesn't matter where they're ranked before the season starts. It matters how they play. That's all that really matters. They've got to get in playoff contention, and then that's what getting the wins matters, not getting the preseason rankings.
Well, look, I'll take both, because this team has been in obscurity for as long as I can remember in the last decade. So any preseason recognition is welcome recognition for me. I actually think that Devin Booker probably should be ahead of Chris Paul on the list. Right now, I think Chris Paul is benefiting from legacy more than than current. I think they are within a few spots of each other, but I think Devin Booker, especially what he did in the bubble, proves that that he's probably a step ahead of Chris Paul at this stage in their career. But I'm not going to split hairs. 2 spots between the two on the list, and they're in the top 20 is more than fine with me. It'll be interesting to see if Chris Paul can continue to play at that pace and how much Devin Booker improves. If they do this list again at the end of the season, has Devin Booker moved up, 3, 4, 5 spots on that list because of what he's been able to accomplish in this year? And was Chris Paul able to play well enough where he stays in that 15 to 20 range? That's what's interesting to me. And that kind of brings us to the next thing we want to discuss, which is what is Chris Paul's effect going to be on this team this year, and what impact will it have? Everybody knows, and we saw that lovely video that the Fox Sports Arizona production crew put together a couple of weeks ago, that I was against this before I was for it. Very political.
Do we need to see it again? I have it ready to go.
I don't think we need to see it again. I was against it before I was for it, and then I was for it, and I'm not against it again. But so that's where I stood on the Chris Paul thing. But and even though I was for it, I still was wondering what Chris Paul was going to bring to the table. You'd heard the rumors about how hard he is on teammates, the way he treats teammates, what kind of impact would that have on a young group? That all changed this week, because I spent roughly 90 minutes listening to Chris Paul talk with JJ Redick on the Old Man and the Three podcast,
which was awesome.
It was unbelievable. And when you listen to Chris Paul talk on there, if you don't get excited at the leadership he's bringing, the way he thinks about basketball, it completely made me feel like this was the best deal the Suns could have made this offseason. Just looking at the way he views the game, the way he views his leadership, the way he just looks at things overall, this guy gets it. This is a guy that, Monty Williams started this change last year in the way that these guys get prepared, in the way that they look at the game, but it's different when a coach tells you it. Based on what I heard from Chris Paul on that podcast, he and Monty are in lockstep in the way that they look at leadership. Chris may be a little bit tougher love than Monty is, but they believe the same principles. And now the Suns have a guy on the court that's going to hold them to what Monty tells them off the court. I think this should be huge for the young guys. What are your thoughts on this, Saul?
But to your point, like, he's only tougher because he's the one that's in the game playing, and he's experiencing everything that Monty's watching. So he has to be tougher. His level of intensity has always been high, and that's never been in doubt. That's never been a question. And I think it helps actually that his the perception of him, it precedes him, right? So, before he even gets here, players have already heard, horror stories, if you will, or stories about Chris Paul and what he's really like. And I think when you actually meet Chris Paul in person, I think what we've seen over the last couple of days, especially in these media interviews, is that he has a way of speaking to people. And I think when you're in the heat of battle, there is no time for fluff. There is no time to sugarcoat anything. It's get the effing job done or get the hell out of the way. Like, that's just how it is with Chris Paul. And I love that about him. I'd rather you not sugarcoat it. Don't be nice. Tell me what I need to do. And yeah, you're going to get on my butt every now and then. And he's going to get in players' faces every now and then, which is okay. He's the leader on this team. Like, he is. Booker is the leader, but Chris Paul is the leader because of the experience that he has. He's been where Devin Booker's trying to go. So by that, just in its own nature, he's going to have a little bit more credibility than anybody else on this team right now. And so I'm full listening to JJ Redick's podcast. I sat there and I got goosebumps because I was like, yes, this is what the Suns have been missing for the past decade, a true leader. And it's not going to be pretty every single time. It might get ugly a couple times here and there, but I think the end result we are all going to be happy with.
Yeah, no. And I also want to talk about his impact already on DeAndre Ayton. And it doesn't mean, obviously, he's going to have more impact as the season goes on. And as they play together, he's going to have even more impact, clearly. But just to start, just to set the tone in the first place, Chris Paul said on the JJ Redick podcast, and also DeAndre Ayton has said in interviews as well this week, is that Chris Paul has talked to him about playing defense, being the anchor of the defense, being the back line of the defense, focusing on defense first, and then finishing at the rim second, and not taking outside shots. And he's going to do that. Chris Paul is going to get DeAndre Ayton focused on the right things. And Ayton says he wants to dominate on defense. He wants to be really good on that area and have offense come secondary. And I think that's excellent, because that's what the Suns really need. DeAndre Ayton has the ability to be one of the best defenders in the NBA. And Chris Paul is going to help him get there. So if you see Chris Paul yelling at DA, it's going to be in a helpful way. It's going to be some of us might see it as harsh, but DA is going to see it as something that's incredibly helpful. He is going to work. He's going to work real hard. He is going to have some down days, but he's going to have a lot of really good days. And that's going to be thanks to Chris Paul's leadership on that end.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. We've heard a lot of talk from DeAndre Ayton in the past, but I think the difference is Chris Paul is going to hold him accountable to it, right? He's not going to let him just talk about it and then not show it 100% on the court. And that's what a guy like DeAndre Ayton needs. I mean, we've talked about it here. No, I'm not saying DeAndre Ayton Shaq, but Shaq needed guys like Kobe and Penny Hardaway and Dwayne Wade, that had that kind of mindset that Chris Paul does, the grinding mindset, the push you mindset to get the best out of him. And I think that's what Chris Paul is going to do for DeAndre Ayton, is get the best out of him day in, day out on the court. If he messes something up, he's going to show him how to correct it. They're going to learn how to be in the right place at the right time. And I'm excited for Valley-oop, because we're going to get a lot of those lobs from Chris Paul to DeAndre Ayton. And hopefully he's aggressive and rips down the rim with it, because everybody seems to want to see that from him. Well, Chris Paul is going to be able to set him up for that. And building that chemistry is key. And from what we've heard, obviously none of us are seeing practice or any part of it this year because of the weird pandemic, training camp and preseason. But we're assuming they're building that chemistry and working on that. I could not be more excited for the impact that Chris Paul is going to have on DeAndre Ayton in particular.
I wonder how big of a jump it's going to be from Chris Paul from Ricky Rubio. What's that margin of victory? How much is it going to increase? I do wonder that. I think it'll increase, but by how much? And that's going to depend on that's really going to make a difference in this season. I'm saying the obvious, obviously, but Chris Paul's ability to be an offensive threat, scoring wise, I think makes all the difference in the world. And then obviously you add in the leadership. I think Ricky Rubio also led. He was a good leader on the court as well. He talked to guys and got them in position and stuff like that. So I don't want to undermine what Ricky Rubio did by any stretch of the imagination. But Chris Paul is just a different dude. And sometimes, when mom's telling you like, hey, you need to do this, you need to clean your room, and you're like, yeah, I know I need to clean my room, and I'm gonna go. And you just kind of slowly, but then you hear like, hey, if you don't clean your room, I'm going to tell your dad. And then you're like, oh shit. Yeah, I gotta go do it. I think there's a difference there. Right. And so, I'm excited to see CP3. I can't even overstate that at all.
Yeah, even more so than the advice that he's going to be giving and the holding guys accountable and all that. Chris Paul is one of the best clutch players in the NBA. He has always been clutch in the fourth quarter. And the thing is, the difference between him and Ricky is not just obviously the ability to shoot. He can get his own shot whenever he wants to. When guys go under on the screen, Chris Paul is just that's his Candyland right there. They talked about that on the Old Man the 3-Pod as well, on how he developed into a guy who could just completely attack when the guy goes under, when the guy goes over. He knows exactly how to run all that. But he's also one of the best clutch players in the fourth quarter in the NBA. And that is highly important for a team like the Suns, who really need someone to finish games. How many games did the Suns lose last year in the final 3 minutes? Because Ricky Rubio is not a great clutch player. He's a good clutch player, but not a great one. Chris Paul's a great one.
Well, yeah, it drastically changes
That's
the
my
way teams
thoughts.
are going to play. The way teams are going to play defense against you, as well. Because with Ricky, they could sag off. They give you the opportunity to, try to give him an opportunity to shoot even wide open jumpers because they knew the percentages were in their favor. But you can't do that with Chris Paul. So how much does just his presence, his offensive ability change Devin Booker's offensive outlook too? And that's before we're even looking at Cam Johnson and Mikal Bridges and that group, what it does for them. So yeah, you can't overrate what Chris Paul can do on the offensive end, because that's a big upgrade over Ricky Rubio. And look, that's not a knock on Ricky. We all knew his biggest flaw was his shooting, and Ricky knows that too. This is that next evolution.
He was actually surprisingly serviceable last year, shooting wise. I was actually surprised by how well he was able to shoot the ball a couple times last season.
Yeah, better than he had been.
I was worried about the repeatability of that a little,
Yeah. For sure.
So I'm glad we don't have to worry about that.
Oh, Espo's Mike is deciding to take the Dave King school of gerbil wheel non-spinism.
The production value, poor Saul.
Man, what is going on? If it's not Espo's mic and it's not your Wi-Fi, it's my stupid camera, because I look like I have jaundice in this stupid camera. I hate this camera. I promise I will get it replaced. But look, my skin is like gray. I feel like I should be in Game of Thrones right now. It's ridiculous.
Gray Thunder is your look. At least my camera looks good when my mic's not working. That's all I'm concerned about. But no, look, you're getting everything that you got with Ricky Rubio in terms of passing ability, those kind of things. But then you're getting the bonus, the upgrade of Chris Paul's offense, and it was an evolution that I think you needed to take if you were serious about taking the next step. So that's immensely exciting for me as well. But the one other thing that came up in the Chris Paul discussion, and we had talked about it last week, and I thought it was very interesting to hear it straight from Chris Paul this week, was how would load management come into play with Chris Paul? And he, in no uncertain terms on that podcast, said, I do not take games off when I'm healthy. I will not take games or minutes off if I am healthy. I mean, he was very blunt about it. So I am not expecting a lot of load management games from Chris Paul, because I can't see Monty and James Jones trying to force that on him if he's not actually ailing with anything, especially in a truncated season like we started. Last week, we wondered how would that play in back-to-backs. After hearing Chris Paul, I think he's going to be there for a majority of these games if he's not injured.
I mean, you're paying this dude like what, $850,000? It feels like every game. You know what I mean? Like, I think the number works out like $800,000 a game. Like, yeah, I don't really care much about load management at that point. Like, let's go. We need to get our money's worth.
Yeah, and the difference is you haven't been in the playoffs for a decade, so load management isn't all that appealing when you realize, because of last year, one game can make the difference. So one game you sit CP3 out because you don't want to put some miles on the tires could cost you either seeding or the opportunity to be in the playoffs. So regardless of what you're paying him, that fact in and of itself, makes you think, yeah, maybe it doesn't make sense. And if Chris Paul doesn't want to sit, you don't sit Chris Paul. That's just the way it is.
Yeah, for sure. No, I totally agree. Again, he's a veteran. He's been in the league for over a decade. Like, you trust his input at this point. He's not going to try and cheat you. He understands what's on the line. He understands how his body is. I think if you're Monty Williams, if Chris Paul comes in and says, I can't go tonight, then he doesn't go tonight. And you can live with that decision because you trust what he brings to the table. He's not a rookie trying to get out of practice. He's a vet trying to, make sure he's in it for the long haul. especially in late in the season. So,
well, speaking of that, he talked about how he's prepping his body as well, and he talked about just being in that vegan diet and how that changed things, and how it's slightly changing his workout as well with that. His training made him realize over the last couple of years, and in particular last year in Oklahoma City, how he could actually play basketball the right way, how he felt comfortable playing basketball. And this is crazy to think, because this is Chris Paul. They refer to him as a point god, right? And he's sitting here saying, no, I think I'm finally figuring out how I can play basketball best. That excited me too, because if that's true, I get it. He's 35, but if that's true and he's unlocked something different, and we did see some special moments from CP3 in Oklahoma City, and he led a much less talented team than the Suns to the 5 seed. It could be really interesting.
I'm going to use Chris Paul as an experiment, because I've seen Tom Brady do this, and a lot of other athletes have done this as well. They've gone to this vegan diet, and as you know, Espo, I love to grill me some meat on the grill, and so if these guys come out and they look like they have just found the fountain of youth, and they're just, their bodies aren't breaking down as much, and I might seriously consider going vegan. It's been on the mind. I don't know. I feel like it couldn't hurt. Assuredly, my belly is telling me you should have done this like 10 years ago for sure.
What would your Instagram feed be then? Would it just be asparagus on the grill? Like, I got up at 3 a.m. because we got to cook, instead of brisket, we got to cook this asparagus.
We got slow cook this asparagus.
Your whole identity on social media would go away. I highly recommend, if you're a person that likes to be hungry constantly, Saul's Instagram is perfect for that. But by the way, I think we need to put my microphone, your camera, and Dave's internet on a vegan diet, and hopefully get the performance up to speed as well.
Dog made a good point. Yes, Dave is on dial-up. You are absolutely right.
Good Lord, I don't even understand what's happening here.
The prison only has dial-up speed. For those of you listening,
I had to put some more quarters in the machine.
He had to go
internet
put more money on his card.
Yeah.
Get a swap commissary for cigarettes.
For those of you listening to the podcast,
commissary is right down the hall. Yeah.
For those of you listening to the podcast, this is funny because Dave, instead of his usual background, is sitting up against a plain white wall, and it's so added.
You're lucky I'm not wearing a pink jumpsuit. Wait, what's that song?
You have a collection from San Quentin Prison.
So since we're off the rails here for a second before we get back on, Herbie in the chat, one of our flaming ballers, said, Espo, off topic, but is that a picture of you dressed as the Larry O'Brien trophy in that frame? Yes, it is. If you remember Trophy Guy from the Suns old marketing campaign in the 7 seconds or less days, we found that in a closet at the arena, and I had to find any excuse I could to actually wear that costume. So it was a viral video that the team put out. I think it was the Harlem Shake or whatever back then when I was working for it. And I found the excuse to actually get in the Trophy Guy costume. So yes, that is me dressed as the Larry O'Brien trophy over my shoulder. So,
well, selfish plug. We got a pretty cool thing going on tonight. First preseason game of the season. And why don't we let Chris McDougal jump into the chat and tell us all a little bit about it.
Pay attention to the Suns. First of all, they went 8-0 in the bubble. Don't forget. Signed Chris Paul, got new unis, got a new facility. And now we have their broadcast schedule. Tomorrow at 7 p.m., you can watch their first of 4 preseason games.
It's about time.
With their season opener on. So again, make sure you tune in on Fox Sports Arizona because, you know what? Even LeBron James knows that the Suns are going to be good this year.
my guy, James Jones, has done a hell of a job over there. And not only acquiring CP3, but he is building that team. He's got some really, really good things going on over there.
Wild Horse.
There you go.
Hey, I have been asking when am I going to get a guest spot on the 48 with Kristen? That is one of my favorite things on the social medias. Yeah, that's I love that. So, but yes, preseason basketball. By the way, Saul, thank you for stealing the wheel.
I'm sorry. I'm
grinding
sorry.
those gears to get us back
That's
on the track.
right back.
Grinding those gears, yes. Spinning the wheel to get us all back on track. Yes.
We are back on track. Suns preseason. Yes. We are taping this Saturday morning if you're not watching live. And that means tonight, the Phoenix Suns finally take the court against the Utah Jazz on Fox Sports Arizona, the Fox Sports Go app. So we can see what the new look Suns look like. We've been guessing what the chemistry could look like. We're going to get a sneak peek. I'm guessing we're not going to see a lot of CP3, Ayton, and Booker tonight, but we will get to see at least some of them. They play tonight and then on December 14th at 7 p.m. against the Jazz again in Utah, and then back-to-back against the Lakers on the 16th and the 18th, all of them again on Fox Sports Arizona. When we're looking at this, what are you hoping to see out of these 4 preseason games and to feel good going into the 23rd against the Mavericks? Dave, we can start with you so your internet can have an opportunity.
Yeah, we can. Let's pray. Crossing fingers that this holds up. I'm looking just to see the chemistry, the natural chemistry between Chris Paul and DeAndre Ayton on pick and rolls. They have not played much together. In fact, Ayton hadn't done a 5-on-5 with Chris Paul on his team yet. But it's interesting because Chris Paul on that podcast that we're all referencing this whole time. So you guys, we're going to spend an hour and a half talking about an hour and a half podcast. That podcast, he said that he had to work from scratch with DeAndre Jordan. He said he made some comment. I can't remember what he said, but DeAndre Jordan was basically starting from scratch on how to play basketball and how to be a pick and roll finisher. And Chris Paul worked with him.
He said he couldn't walk and chew gum at the same time.
That's it. Yeah. So obviously DeAndre Ayton can do those things. You want him chewing gum, and that's the best part. So if DeAndre Ayton can do that, then they're ahead of the game. But I wonder how natural that is. And I think it's going to be pretty darn easy for Chris Paul to set up a good chemistry with Ayton a few times in this preseason without them actually having to work hard at it. I'm curious about that. And I'm curious about how Chris Paul and Devin Booker kind of trade off. But we're not going to see a lot of that in preseason. We're not going to see a lot of the clutch, and we're not going to see any clutch time. So we're not going to see how their dynamic is between each other as playmakers in clutch. So really it's going to be, what do these guys look like? Does anybody look like they've progressed a lot? I asked Devin Booker yesterday, has anybody jumped out kind of the way Cam Johnson jumped out in the first offseason we had in 2020? Cam Johnson got big and got swole and was actually able to play some more power forward. And I asked Devin Booker if he saw any of that so far. He's like, yeah, you can't really tell. It's only been a couple of months, but we'll see in games how different people play. And so he's just excited about playing again. And Booker did say specifically he's going to play in both these Utah games, whereas Utah is sitting a couple of guys. Mike Conley and Royce O'Neal are sitting for rest. So not everybody's going to be playing for these teams in these games. And I do find it, one last comment I'll make is I think it's interesting that they're playing these 2 on the road, kind of like baseball, 2 on the road in Utah and then 2 at home against the Lakers. The NBA did not make that happen during the regular season more than a couple of times, but the Suns will have a couple of 2-game road trips against the same team during the season. Thought they were going to have even more than that, but there's only, I think, 2, maybe 3 at the most.
Yeah, I think all I'm really watching for is just continuity, watching them build their chemistry. You got to understand, this is not a typical off season. They've had essentially 2 off seasons and 2 seasons in the last 12 months. It's been pretty crazy. And a lot of these guys only took, the Lakers got 2 months, if that, off, and then the Suns had maybe about 3.5 months. So A lot of these teams are going to be, trying to find their legs. A lot of these guys play like a month and a half of pickup ball before they even get to training camp normally, and that just didn't happen this
usually
year. And so I wouldn't expect a giant leap from one player, in whatever regard. I just wouldn't expect that this year because of the truncated offseason time, but I would expect to see everybody play and try to build that chemistry and get the flow going. You got to learn roles and you got to go through the motions. And if I can watch Chris Paul and CP3 and DeAndre play, 15, 20 minutes, I'll be happy. And then watch, the rest of the players for the rest of the game.
Look, I'm just excited that we get Suns basketball because Saul, you and I went to school at a place that we just had to watch a 70-7 game. So anything to cleanse the palate after that, I'm more than happy. Even if it's preseason basketball and I get 2.5 minutes of Chris Paul, it'll be better than what was experienced on Friday night. So I'm all right with.
I didn't even get to see that, but I went to NAU, so I don't have any stake in this game in that rivalry.
Consider yourself.
I tell you what, my kids all went to U of A, and I've spent my career as a father giving them crap for going to U of A to do that. I have grown to be an ASU fan because of living in Phoenix since the 80s, and I am smiling this morning. I'll just say that.
Yeah, thanks, Dave.
For no good reason.
Can we mute him and act like his internet cut out again, please?
You guys brought that up.
No, I'm
if
just
you
saying,
guys bring it up, it's open season.
I don't have a stake in this game, but I like to root for ASU. Blah, 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 blah.
Yep. I'd like to just do U of A finger right now.
There's so many U of A's around me. It's fun.
Anyway, but I am excited just to have Suns basketball back. But I think that one guy that has intrigued me, and it's Tyshawn Alexander. We've heard a lot of talk about him in some of these media availabilities. He was the undrafted rookie free agent, and I think seeing him, because in all likelihood, we're not going to see him unless something catastrophically goes wrong in the regular season or they're up by an ASU level of ASU margin in a game. But I'm interested to see, if he gets some minutes, what he looks like. Jalen Smith should get more minutes than he will in a regular season game. And, I've heard DeAndre was talking about how impressed he is with Jalen's shooting, how that caught him off guard. Well, I want to see that in a game. I want to see that in a situation, albeit preseason, but I want to see what that athleticism looks like, what that shooting looks like in a live game. So that's what I'm looking forward to. Yeah, we'll see if there's glimpses of chemistry that we get with Chris Paul and the rest of the group. We'll see if any of the the ready for primetime players do anything of note, but it's really those kind of guys that, at least for the 2 Utah games, I'm looking at to see something. When we get into the Lakers games, when they're a little bit more of the fine tuning and the dress rehearsal for the 23rd against the Mavs, then I'm looking towards how do the starters look? How do things feel like they're coming together? But these first 2 games that we're looking at in Utah, I want to see the fringe guys and what they do and how they look most.
No, I think they're going to treat the preseason, since it's only 4 games like the NFL preseason. Maybe we just let the starters go for the first quarter, and then the second game they go for the first 2 quarters, and then the third game they go 1, 2, 3, and then that's it. They don't play in the fourth. But yeah, I'm excited to see Jalen Smith. I think a lot of us haven't really watched him play very much. We've seen highlights now that he's been drafted to the Suns, but I haven't met a diehard Maryland fan out there outside of Casey Jacobson, apparently, who gave all the rundown on Jalen Smith. So I want to see him play. I want to see what his skill sets are and how they translate to the league. And more importantly, I want to see what his outside shot is going to look like. I hope he pulls from deep a couple times, just so I can get a feel of what he's all about. And I'm just, dude, guys, I can't emphasize this enough. And you can tell by the chat, it's just it's finally it's so much fun to be excited about a season, because it's been a while. We were excited about last season, with the additions of Ricky Rubio, and I think this season is going to be even better. At least I hope so. Yeah, I just this group it screams to me intensity, and that they're not going to take plays off, and they're going to be competitive in every game. That's what they, whether they win every game or not. Obviously, I just want to see them compete at a high level, and I think we're going to get that absolutely.
Yeah, there's not a lot of position battles either in this preseason. Looking at it, maybe there's a bit at the power forward spot. Does Cam Johnson start? Does Jay Crowder start? And then that backup point guard mix. Is it Javon that gets a large number of those minutes? Is it Campaign? Who's backing up Devin primarily with Etuan Moore, Langston Galloway, and Javon Carter, who's in that mix? Those are interesting as well here. But to your point, Saul, this isn't like other preseasons where we're going in with a million question marks. There's a lot more answers this year than things we need to fill in the blank about. And that's exciting too, because this is more about anticipation for something that should be exciting rather than, well, I don't know what this ride's going to be like, which is good.
Absolutely.
Dave, any additional preseason thoughts on your end?
I don't know about position battle. I know we're going to see it as a battle because we're stressed for some strange reason, because that's how fans are. We all do it. We're stressed about who starts versus who comes off the bench versus who finishes and all that at power forward between Cam Johnson and Jay Crowder. I don't know that anyone else is as stressed as we are about it. I think Jay is probably going to get the veteran nod to start the year. He might not play tonight, by the way, Jay Crowder. He just joined the team 3 days ago because of personal reasons, non-COVID related apparently, but because of personal reasons. And now he's with the team and he has first practice like 2 or 3 days ago. So he may not play tonight. So nothing's going to be decided in preseason. I think in his power forward, he'll get better a nod at the beginning of the year. And then we'll see how everyone plays. And Cam Johnson may end up, I'd rather see Cam Johnson in the running for 6th man of the year than forcing his way into power forward starter position over Jay. I mean, Jay Crowder's started most of the games he's played in his career, and I don't see that changing. Everything else, like you said, Espo, there's not really many position battles to be fought. This game, what's so nice about this team is that they're so well constructed. Everyone just goes, oh yeah, there's the puzzle. It fits. The only thing that doesn't 100% fit is who is DeAndre Ayton's primary backup. Is it Damian Jones because he's good at pick and roll finishes? Maybe if Chris Paul's out there and DeAndre Ayton is in foul trouble and you need someone to do pick and roll finishing, great. Or is it Jalen Smith because you need some stretching?
Monty said this week that it could be Dario instead. He said you can envision right, a guy like Dario being the backup. He did such a great job in the bubble, especially when it seemed like the Suns finally figured out how to use Dario the correct way, and he, to his credit, he also changed his game a little bit to adjust to that as well. And I think the two merged together beautifully in the bubble. And I would expect him to be the backup to DA if the other two don't pan out.
Thank you, Saul. I was having a complete brain fart. You're absolutely right. It's going to be Dario, and he was great in the bubble at that position. My bad.
Well,
can you edit out the last 3 minutes of this podcast? That would be.
We're just going to edit out your pauses because of your Wi-Fi.
Going to edit out you, and it'll sound like Saul and I just talked the whole time on the audio version of this.
Actually,
Dave
just edit out all of Dave's comments today. Yeah, and it's a 40-minute podcast.
Yes, I think that Dario may be one of those guys that shifts around what position he's playing in that second unit, but is always playing the same role as that kind of distributor, that guy that is facilitating a lot of that offense, because I think that's what they found success in the bubble with Dario and understood that. I don't think it was so much that he was playing the backup five as much as the way they were using him to facilitate things in that offense. That's more of a positionless, as much as that term's overused, a positionless mindset with him. It's how you're going to use him. So you may have Jalen Smith on the floor with him, and Jalen Smith is technically the backup five, but you've got Dario playing a very specific role, and I think that's what's most important for him when he's on the floor.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, we've talked about it at length now. Let's just get it on. Let's just get it started. I'm ready.
Yeah.
I think the chat's ready. We're ready. Let's just go. Let's do it.
I heard a rumor that we have a little DeAndre Ayton something.
Yeah.
So
this week, Fox Sports Arizona, we were able to get a little media access, one-on-ones with some of these guys, and we got some pretty cool content that we're going to develop out of that. But one of the pieces of content that we're developing is just kind of we wanted to see what guys thought about other guys' Instagram. And so we pulled up a couple pictures and had them comment. And DA, this is just a little snippet of DA looking at a Devin Booker picture.
All right, a few more.
Oh my God. Hey, what you put in the media is what you get out. Boy, I don't know where these two are going. They look like they're going to the SP award show or the damn wedding. I don't know. Y'all going to a bachelor party or a damn graduation party. You got what's his name? D-Lo over there look like he ready for prom. D-Book just got married. So hey man, these dudes hilarious. That's that light-skinned crew. What did he say? A long way from sneaking out in hotel rooms and can't. Man, if you don't get out of here, boy, y'all still got curfew, boy. Y'all still got curfew. Stop playing.
I mean, hey, we had 10 minutes with DA, and I don't think I stopped laughing the entire time. DA was on another level. Kristen was asking him questions, and I was recording the whole thing. He was just awesome. There's a little sneak preview of what we got coming up down the road. But we had a lot of great content. CP3 went in on some players as well on their Instagrams. It was just good fun overall. And so look out for that on our social media channels for sure.
Look, people can knock DA, whatever, but man, the guy's just fun. Like, that's fun. That's what you want from an athlete, is to show some damn personality. Yeah. I appreciate that. And they all don't have to be the same personality too. They all can have their own personality, and DA brings that. So I love that kind of stuff. That was always my favorite with Media Day, was you could go a little outside the box. You could get to see that personality a little bit, because it wasn't all cliches and platitudes. It was some fun. So glad that we get a little sneak peek of that here.
DA has never been guilty of giving you a cliche answer, I don't believe. Yeah, I mean, he's since day one, even at the U of A, he has never been like, well, we're going to do what's in the best interest of the team or anything. Like, he doesn't talk like that. He doesn't speak like that. He tells you what he thinks, and I love that about him personally. But
yeah, I mean, that was why I always loved a guy like a Marcin Gortat, because it was the same thing. You weren't getting a cookie cutter answer. You had no clue what answer you were going to get, and that made it exciting and fun to be a part of. So make sure, check out all the Fox Sports Arizona social channels, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram. Yes, I count YouTube as social media. Check it all out, because there's going to be a lot of fun throughout the season. We'll give you some of those sneak peeks here on the Sun Solar Panel as well. I think it's time for the best segment on the show, Espo's Big Board. Oh, look at that. Sal's got the graphic ready too. I am very excited for this week, because in honor of Media Day and some fun, in honor of the fact that KFC has announced they're producing a movie, and Disney Plus dropped about 650,000 new shows this week. Yes. Espo's Big Board is, if you could get Sun's Universe spin-off shows, what would they be? And here are my top 4. Number 4 is a show I would call The New Guys, which would feature the new Chris Paul and the new Devin Booker out in Scottsdale, 2 guys pretending to be NBA stars in a new city, trying to find trouble. And it's a sitcom, a buddy sitcom where, they just pretend to be Chris Paul and Devin Booker in Old Town Scottsdale, and they get in all sorts of trouble. That would be The New Guys, a Sun spinoff, because people are joking that Jake from State Farm looks like the fake Devin Booker. So let's move to number 3 on the list, and this one is one that I'm excited for. It's a reality show. It's called Sticks on the Sticks. It's Jalen Smith playing video games against other NBA and NFL and NHL and MLB athletes, and they play all sorts of weird retro video games. So Sticks on the Sticks, a video game reality show, is number 3 on the list.
Video game reality show. Well, I guess with Twitch out there, there's been video game reality shows for the past year or so. So maybe that is going to take off. That just sounds so ridiculous.
It's either that Sticks on the Sticks or Sticks with Sticks, where he learns to play 80s hairband music. I went with Sticks
drumming.
On the Sticks.
Yeah.
Yes. So number 2 on Espo's big board, the Suns universe spinoff television shows. It's Monty Williams' TED Talks. It's the explanation of the other side of hard. Who wouldn't want to listen to a couple hours of Monty just giving you motivational advice? I would listen to multiple TED Talks by Monty Williams, just standing there on stage explaining to me how I could live a better life, because Monty definitely has the kind of advice that we would all want. But my favorite.
Oh yeah. Number
one, and it's by a mile, is it's called A Recipe for Sunduction.
Oh, I didn't even see that you slid my face in there, you jerk.
It's Dave King as Colonel Sanders. It's Saul Bookman as the love of his life.
God,
A recipe for Sunduction. There's a secret recipe
for disaster.
But really, it's a secret recipe for love. Every Saturday on the Sun's solar panel.
God, so I cannot believe
I'm so sorry you all had to see that. I apologize to the chat for putting my face on a woman's body. That is just unattractive all the way through.
Actually, I kept the beard too, so enjoy that. Hey, at least your coloring was better than it is on the show. You look human in that. So the recipe for Sunduction is
I thought that was pretty
number
good.
1 on the list. You can't tell me you wouldn't watch at least a few of those, right?
Oh my gosh. Oh man.
I actually think the New Guys one with the new Chris Paul and the fake Devin Booker could actually be a sitcom that somebody would watch. I feel good about that one. Saul dressed as and Dave in Love. I don't know about that, but maybe they'd watch that. So that's Espo's big board for this week. I hope you enjoyed it.
Whoa.
By the way, if you're listening on the podcast, I really highly recommend.
I can't believe they're actually doing a KFC show. Again, that's just crazy. They're actually doing.
I don't know what it's going to look like, but I think it's hilarious. And you know it's going to get a rating. It's going to get a rating.
Everyone's going to be number 1. Absolutely.
That show wouldn't get a rating, but the original one will. Yeah, absolutely.
Look, Fox Sports Arizona and Stadium executives, I'm available to create new shows for you. I've got a million ideas, and we can talk, but I can fill that 2 a.m. to 4 a.m. void you have on the network. I'm here for
Oh man, you just had Dave trying to give me his special or blend of herbs and spices. I don't want to see that.
Oh no, you didn't go there. You didn't go there.
It's
finger licking that Saul shared. That was the actual a real female. That was bad.
Look, I'm just trying to get product placement on this show. Like whatever it takes to get a title sponsor, I'm willing to sell you guys out to do.
You notice Espo conveniently did not put his face on the ground.
I know, right? I think that's coming up next week sometime. I don't know.
Oh, yeah, this from
Saul's
the guy
got
who
Photoshop
dropped
skills too.
This from a guy who dropped a 1 minute diss track about me using my own voice. Like, I think we've had
you had your own promo. You should be happy.
You do have your own promo.
Do we want to go to whatever your segment is here?
Sure.
Saul?
Let's imagine this. How about that? Okay. Imagine this. Okay. So today's imagine this. So today's imagine this. I wanted to know what the chat and you guys felt, and would choose between these two. All right. You have Barkley's MVP in finals year, or Nash's back-to-back MVP years. Which one would you rather be?
Look, do you choose these things just to make me angry, like irrationally so? Like, And I don't know why this one does, but this is
I don't know
not
why
a
it does either.
I don't either.
Go. This is not a contest. It's Barkley and the finals, because you want to be in the discussion to be the best team in the league. And the Suns in 92-93 were a minute and a game away from a title. Nash's 2 MVPs back to back were
they were a minute in a game. Yeah, a whole game. You still had a whole nother game.
Yeah, but Nash's team never got within a series of a title. And look, I love Steve Nash. I loved the back-to-back MVPs. Those were fun years. But if I have to choose between that, you choose the finals every time. Even if Barkley had lost the MVP to Jordan that year, which he probably should have, not that I want to admit that out loud, but you choose the finals every time, because that means your team had a chance to legitimately win. And to me, this is a no-brainer. And I know the chat's basically probably saying, it's Steve Nash, you moron. But to me, it's a finals appearance every time.
I don't know if it's that much of a slam dunk. I have such positive memories of the Nash years, especially those 2 unexpected years where they could have gone all the way if not for some injuries. I feel like those teams were just as good as the Barkley team. And Barkley's team was a one-hit wonder. I mean, because they disappointed the next 2 years in much more disappointing fashion, because they had their team and they still lost, as opposed to Nash losing teammates along the way. It's closer than you want to make it sound, Espo, in my mind anyway. But I still have to I have to side with Barkley in the finals, because ultimately you're right. You've got the finals team is the most important. However, I would take Nash in his 2 MVP years and those Western Conference finals runs than over the 76 finals team. So I think I would do that. I definitely think it's closer than you want to call it, Espo.
No,
I agree with you guys. Like, I would much rather have Barkley's year, especially considering who you ended up playing. You played Michael Jordan in the finals, and you're battling for, world supremacy. So yeah, I would definitely do it. But Nash's 2 years. Let's just take this though, okay? Which was funner? Like, I know we won a lot with the Suns and going to the finals against the Bulls. Like, I know there was a lot of fun in winning. But which one was funner? Like, would you have rather been Nash in that 7 seconds or less, and just the high flying and the enthusiasm and just the fun that we saw here in the Valley, or would you rather just win a lot? Which of those? Now, they won a lot too. I'm just saying, which one of those guys would you rather? Would you rather be Barkley, or would you rather be Nash?
Who would I rather be as a human in those situations?
In those situations, yeah.
Barkley, because Barkley was treated like a king in this town. Like,
so was Steve.
No, not in the way Charles
Steve
was.
treated like a king in this town. I don't know. Steve has much more fond memories also of people by people in this town than Barkley. Everyone loves Barkley, but he's been so long on TNT that they think of him more as a TNT guy than they do as a Phoenix Sun. He was only in Phoenix for a few years. So I think definitely I'd rather be Nash personally.
Having had
I'll let you finish your thought, Espo.
Having had a drink with both of these guys, I'd rather be either of them, because they're millionaires and everybody wants to be around them. But
name drop.
Of course. Hey.
So we were sipping Mai Tais by the pool.
Yeah, as we were vacationing together in the Hamptons. Yeah.
No, but look, you can't go wrong with either guy wanting to be either guy. Let's be honest, but I'm always going to default to Charles Barkley, because that was the team that I fell in love with and gave me the affliction of lifelong fanhood. I mean, and I'm sure for a lot of people in the chat that say Nash, that's because they grew up with 7 seconds or less, and that was their big time introduction. Yes, it would not be a solar panel without me name dropping.
Oh man, I remember when I met Michael Jordan for the first time, and see, and Espo's mic conveniently goes out right when he's about to
just
but it's always working when he wants to name drop. He's never missed a name drop.
Have you not figured out pretending it doesn't work when I don't want to address what you're saying. So like that's just how this goes. No, but look, if Nash was and the 7 seconds or less Suns were your introduction to being a Suns fan, that's obviously where you'll default to too. But those are the two greatest time periods.
Yep, they were the two greatest periods in Suns history. Espo's mic is obviously on the fritz right now.
Okay,
and,
I thought it was me again.
Completely PO'd at him, I guess, for having that take. I don't know what's going on.
I don't know. I'm gonna hold the cord in now so it doesn't come back out. So yeah,
that's like the old holding the tin foil over the TV trick.
Look, this is preseason for all of us. Our equipment included. Interesting question in the chat from Omar. He wants to know, would the 93 Suns or the 7 seconds or less Suns win in a head-to-head matchup?
Ooh,
that's an interesting question. Because there's a lot of factors that go into that. I think it's probably 7 seconds or less, just because of the style. They would push that 93 team to a level that I don't know they'd be able to handle, but that would be one hell of a game to watch.
Oh man. You're talking about the speed of the game.
Yeah.
But man, that Suns team in 93, they were no slouches either. They had some speedsters as well, with Cedric Ceballos and Richard Dumas. They had some high flyers as well. Watching Dumas against Stoudemire would
Dumas
be
was definitely
really
a high flyer.
Yeah, for sure. For that 1 year, he was awesome.
Yes.
Yeah.
For the 1 year,
because he was high flying the whole time.
So I think it's time to land the ship.
Espo, you did I remember. Hold on, you did a podcast, didn't you, where you guys simulated the best Suns teams against each other? Did you guys simulate 93 against 07?
Yes, and I believe 93 won in the simulation, a what if sports simulation where they basically simulate 1,001 games and then kind of put together all the stats, which is kind of crazy. It would be fun to watch and see how that would play out.
We have a suggestion for the next big board.
What is that? Next big board. Things we have to buy: 1, Espo's mic; 2, Dave's router; 3, Saul's camera; and 4, Monkey's tripod. Last week's episode. Yes, we badly need all 3 of those, or all 4 of those. We're gonna hold a telethon for that. That stupid XLR cord.
Good job. That is the big board for sure.
Yes, Herbie in the chat, one of our flaming ballers. You win. That is the best Espo's big board we've run with. So look, it's been a unique episode of the Sun Solar Panel, with our technology and a million other things. But we thank you for taking time out of your busy life to join us for whatever the shindig we call the Sun Solar Panel is. We appreciate you. Enjoy Suns preseason basketball over the next week. We will be back next Saturday, and until then, tune into Fox Sports Arizona for all of the preseason games. If you're listening to this Saturday before 7 p.m., you can catch them tonight against the Jazz on Fox Sports Arizona, against the Jazz again on Monday at 7 p.m. In Utah on Fox Sports Arizona, and then twice against the Lakers at the tail end of the week, the 16th and the 18th, live from PHX Arena. You will get to see everything about this Suns team all in one place. Fox Sports Arizona, the Fox Sports Go app. So for our friends over at Fox Sports Arizona, thank you as always for your support and for not producing a slam video about me this week. We're thankful.
There's always next week, baby. There's
always a new week.
You keep photoshopping me on women's bodies, you're gonna get it some more. I promise you that.
Nope, no problem, Saul. For the stars of a recipe for Sunsduction, Saul Bookman, Dave King, I'm Greg Esposito. We'll talk to you next time here on the Sun Solar Panel.
Yeah, you can't hold me down. Yeah, how you like me now? You want beef, then have a call. Looks like bling blow, ayy.